California. She's really happy when we do programs in
At
the
night,
evening.
yes. So I don't like to be in charge of technology stuff while I'm teaching, so you'll forgive me if my mind is a little distracted. But let's start as we have every other session together. Our hearts are captive in Gaza. Bring them home now.
Amen.
Did anyone sing Shema at 11:30 today? Wow. Okay. Yeah, the worldwide Shema. I was in my car, so I had to keep my eyes open, but it was just as powerful as Shema. So we've, I, along with you, have done a lot of learning over the past 10 weeks, and what a gift, what a blessing it is to have so many of the teachers here tonight so that we can continue to learn from them. The twist for tonight, though, is that Ezehu Chacham Halomed Mikol Adam, who is wise, one who learns from everyone. We are all teachers in this room, not just the people that we spotlighted in Zoom, but all of us. And so the questions tonight are not just being asked to our guest teachers, but really to all of us. And I hope that all of you will feel equally empowered to share what you're feeling, what you're thinking, your knowledge, your gifts, your insights, your questions, your struggles. Please, what I said to all of the guest teachers is before each session was please step all over me. Please ignore me if you have something more profound than the drivel that's coming out of my pie hole is. Please interrupt me and share your wisdom with us. We do have a few questions that we thought would help guide our conversation. And I am going to ask that if you do share something that...
There's one from feminism, one left over from feminism.
Okay, I'm going to ignore that. The feminism class scared me, so I'm going to... I forgot what I was saying. What was I saying?
They're supposed to participate.
Oh, before you say something, please just tell us your name and something interesting about you. Jewish identity. So my first question is, how do you define your identity as a Jew? What does it mean to you to call yourself a Jew?
This doesn't require that you find the button on your raise your hand. I can go around. You can just raise your hand.
When I was in high school,
I'm tempting people.
when I was in high school, one of my teachers asked me, how long would it take someone when they first met you to know that you were a Jew? How long would it take them? And I had to think of, well, I wore a kippah, so they'd see my kippah or my tzitzit, or if I didn't wear those, maybe if they came to my house, they'd see my mezuzah, or if I spoke Hebrew, or if I name the Jewish food. How does someone know that you're Jewish? How do you identify for yourself and outwardly your own Jewish identity? Please. Star of David. That's how you show it. Yes? What does that symbolize for you? What does that tell you? What does that tell about your own Jewish identity?
It's a pride thing. I'm proud to be Jewish.
And showing that outwardly. At a time when a lot of people are afraid. Beautiful, thank you.
Which is sad to me. It's very sad.
Yeah. Tell us your name.
Monica.
Hi, Monica.
Hi.
Please.
Yes, my name is Alana, and I guess I felt Jewish the moment today I recognized I was actually a human being, like maybe 5 or 6, you know. I just felt an affinity to the Jewish people. I had to ask to go to Hebrew school. My brother was going. I said, I want to go. And I just feel it reflects everything who I am, my morals, my ethics, my feeling of peoplehood. I lived in Israel for 7 years. I made Aliyah when I was 16 to age 22. It was very, 1965 to 1972. So it was a very interesting time there. And you take that away from me, I don't know who I would be.
Oh, she handed it to you. You have to say something.
Does anybody have a definition of Judar?
Oh.
The ability to gravitate to someone who's Jewish. Coming from what Rabbi David was saying, like how long does it take, for someone to know? Somehow, walking into a room, we find each other.
Story about. I'm going to share a very, hi, I'm Rabbi Amy Pessa. It's so nice to be in person and to see so many of you. And thank you for including me in this really wonderful program. So a very funny story about Judar. My husband and I were away on a vacation. It was, I think, 11 years after we had had our children. So it was a much needed vacation. We were on Turks and Caicos. And we were sitting in the dining area, and I looked over and I said to my husband, I think they're Jewish. And he says, how do you know? And I said, I just know. And he goes, what do you mean you just know? And I said, can't explain it. I can just tell. So as the evening progresses, I'm looking at him and I see he has a t-shirt that says Harvard. And I'm thinking, that's so weird. That guy sort of looks a little familiar. So I walk over and I said, are you so-and-so and so-and-so? And they said, yeah. And I said, oh, you're my mom's second cousins. So they were, but I hadn't seen them in like 20 years. So not only was it like Judar, but it was really family dar, yes.
I'm doing exercise too.
Amy, you just reminded me of an incredible story also,
Who are
identifying the people.
Who
We're
are
on
you?
a,
Who are you?
oh, I'm my Jewish, Leon Weisberg, wearing a medallion also, just coming back from Israel. We're in Alaska, and we're going towards, we're in Anchorage, and we're on a bus going to our ship. And on the bus, sitting opposite us, there's a couple with two children. And, the children say to their parents that they're hungry. And I see the mother open up her bag and take out a sandwich wrapped in aluminum foil. And I said to my wife, they're Jewish. They're Jewish, there's no question. Anyhow, as we we're going on the same ship, so I went over and I said, hi, can I say shalom? And the father said, yeah, shalom, shalom. And that was it, of course. So, you look for little clues and opening up a sandwich in the bag. That was a clue.
It's funny how I thought of kippah, tzitzit, we had a Jewish star. Here we've got a feeling and a sandwich as signifiers of our Jewish identity.
She was first.
I'm not.
I don't know about the Judar, but I was born into a Reform synagogue. My parents helped found one and converted what was a carriage house into a sanctuary when my mother was pregnant with me. And I was named there, I became bat mitzvah there, I was confirmed there, my brothers were married there. And Friday night services were just what we did every week. Religious school, I went 3 times a week as a Reform Jew. And I just never felt that I belonged anywhere else but then with my people. And the heritage that we have, and Sandra and I were discussing a few minutes ago about the relationship we've always had with Israel, and we feel that current generations are losing. I'm also married to a Sabra, and so Israel is a very important part of our lives.
Can you tell us what a sabra is?
Someone who was born in Israel and grew up there and then moved here and has dual citizenship.
It could also just be an Israeli. They don't have to move here. A sabra is it's a fruit.
It's a fruit, it's
That's
a plant.
incredibly rough and prickly on the outside, but warm and mushy on the inside. Just like every Israeli.
I don't know how warm and mushy they are on the inside. Sometimes I think it's the other way around. I think they're soft on the outside, but inside they're tough as nails. And he fought in the Yom Kippur War, and Israel is still a very important part of our lives.
Thank you so much.
My name is Yaakova Ruda.
My name is Joan, and I've been with IJKL since its inception.
26 years.
Is that how long?
Wow.
So your question, Rabbi David, was confounding to me because I didn't know.
As our relationship usually
Always,
demonstrates.
I didn't even know where to start to search for an answer. And then it came to me. I have a secular upbringing, and the only Judaism that I knew was from an aunt and uncle who had a Passover Seder, where my uncle stood in the corner and went, and then we ate. That was a total, oh, and I got a new outfit, because all my clothes were hand-me-down. I got a new outfit for Rosh Hashanah that I would also wear for Passover. That was the totality of my Judaism. When I had my kids, I knew that I had searched spiritually my whole adult life, and luckily, the universe guided me to combine my search with Judaism. So my yoga teachings actually led me to my Judaism teachings. When I had my children, I said to my husband, Jack, I can't raise my kids Jewish because I don't have that knowledge to give them. So we chose to send them to Solomon Schechter Day School. At the same time, how long will it take for somebody to recognize that I'm Jewish? Before I had my children, I was teaching school in a town that was in the one-room schoolhouse 5 years before I was teaching there. There was one Jew in the town, he was the doctor, and me. And the history teacher in the school would stare at my head, looking for horns, because that's what he knew. So how long did it take for him to know that I was Jewish? That's the answer. I think my Judaism was in my cells.
Yeah,
It's in my cells.
The fact that you grew up with the incredibly limited Jewish experience that you did, and then your first thought when you felt inadequate to bring your children up Jewish was to pay $15,000 a year to send them to Solomon Schechter.
For three.
Means you are not normal. No, it means it is in your cells. And
It is.
I mean, that's what a just a profoundly beautiful takeaway is that for all of us educators and rabbis who worry about people who, what's going to happen to the next generation if they don't get enough. It doesn't matter how much they have as long as it's in their DNA, I don't mean it doesn't matter, but there is another way through the DNA. Oh, that's a bumper sticker. There's another way. DNA! Forget it. Jack.
My name is Jack Halpern, and I grew up in the South Bronx, and there must have been 3 synagogues within 5 to 6 blocks of my house, and the whole world was Jewish. I knew very few people who weren't Jewish, and everything was in the school, my elementary, it didn't matter. But things started to change for me. I went to high school in Brooklyn from the Bronx. I used to commute, and then I met a lot of goyim there, and a lot of Italian guys, and so it started to know a different part of the world. But I knew I was Jewish. I grew up, I was there. I wouldn't dare eat anything in the street on Yom Kippur. The looks you would get would be horrible. But what happened was I went off to school before she went to where she did in South Central Missouri. I dragged her out there later. But for undergraduate school, I went to a little town in South Central Missouri for a degree in engineering, and I was the only Jew around. And what became to me when I looked around, I became the only Jew, and it became part of my life. it just became part of my life that I realized I was what I was. And then later, a couple years later, actually, AEPI wound up joining. There were some other Jews on campus who I found out about, and so I spent more time with them than with my fraternity. And it became a large part of our life, to the point that we were going on Aliyah in 1972, and I had 2 job offers. And we were going to Israel, and we were ordering our refrigerators and stoves and stuff like that. And Joan's mother, we had a 2-year-old then, how could you take this baby away from me? You can't do this. And then my mother got into the act, and we're here. But I'm Jewish, and I'm all through me.
Sandra was, and then Marcia. Yeah, and then you. No, I for them.
So I'm listening to Joan and I'm thinking, oh, did we have the same parents? Because I too grew up completely secular. I went to school on Yom Kippur because my parents didn't understand why the heck they shouldn't send their kids to school that day. It's like it's a normal day. We're not observant. We don't do anything. Why should you not go to school? So I went to school on Yom Kippur. Knew nothing about Judaism. And yet, and this is all I'm going to say, and yet, because we got a glimpse of the questions before David got here, when I saw the first question, the first thing I said to Lila is like, that question doesn't even apply to me. I don't know how to answer that question. Like, what do you mean? It's who I am, which is exactly what you said about cells. It's just in my cells. And even though I didn't grow up with it, and you had a Seder, I did not even have a Seder. We had a dinner, not a Seder. Literally, we had 2 dinners. We had 2 dinners a year, family dinners a year. One was the dinner where they had something with honey, and the other was a dinner where they had something with hard-boiled eggs. And when my mother said we have a family dinner, I would say, is it the hard-boiled egg one or the honey one? Because that was a difference. So yes, like you, it's in my cells.
Let me just pick up on Joan's comment, only because I had a similar, I was invited in 1999 to Poland, a group of us from the States, 5 of us, to help them rewrite the Holocaust curriculum. And we were teamed up with a lot of their educators, a lot of religious ones, and my co-partner was a Jesuit priest. And as we started talking about things, I kept noticing what he was doing. He kept looking at my head. And then he actually asked me, he asked me, you wear that skull cap, is it to hide, the little nubs? And I literally took off my kippah and I shook my, I had more hair then, but this is 1999, a Jesuit priest, and he still thought that we had horns.
I have Marcia and then Rabbi. Okay, Carl.
Hi, my name is Marcia Braff. And to the question of something being in your cells, I think that I met somebody in Colorado who had grown up in Idaho and was living, she and her wife were living in Estes Park, Colorado. No synagogues in anywhere where she grew up, no synagogues in Estes Park, Colorado. And we had a condo there and we went regularly. And one day, and I was there over a Jewish holiday, I think, and I had something, I mean, there was no mezuzah on the door because it wasn't where we lived, but she came in, so they were the property managers, so they would come in and out and, do things in the condo, and she went, oh, are you Jewish? Like, this was a gift from him. And I said, yeah, why? She said, well, because, it's Shabbat, isn't it? And I said, it's Shabbat, yes. And she said, oh, is that how it's pronounced? I'm sorry, I don't know. Well, over time, we became very good friends. And I went to her house. They shopped at thrift stores all the time. She had all these books about Judaism. She had a whiteboard with Hebrew on it. Her significant other and mine would watch football games, and she and I would talk about Judaism. She doesn't know why. She just loves it. And we had conversations about God, and she had books. I said something to her, and one time she said, "Oh yes, that was Hillel, right?" And I went, "My husband does. I mean, he grew up Jewish. His mother was a secretary in a synagogue. He belonged to Jewish youth groups. None of it like really took." She had no reason to have any knowledge, any curiosity, any interest. We did discuss her doing her ancestry and DNA. I said, you have someone Jewish in your background. She never did find out, but it was definitely cellular for her, as it was for me when I was taking my first Melton class with the rabbi there, and my daughter was entering elementary school. And I wasn't quite sure whether I would send her to Jewish day school. I hadn't gone, but I'd gone to Hebrew school. I had been bat mitzvahed. My father, was a yeshiva bacha. And Leon said to me, I said, "I don't know, I don't think I want to send her somewhere where everybody is rich and white and Jewish." I mean, it doesn't feel organic to me. And he said, "Send her, it'll be enough time for her to get out into the world and find out that there are other people out there. Let her get her Jewish roots there." Now, I could have, I knew a lot. So she did. The flip side of the story is neither she nor our son, my son's engaged to a woman who isn't Jewish. She's married to a man who isn't Jewish. They know they're Jewish. They don't particularly relate to it. In spite of themselves, they've absorbed it, and they will still acknowledge it. But this woman from Idaho is Jewish somewhere in her DNA, and my kids are, but they don't love it the way she does. So I don't know.
If it's okay, I'm going to let everyone talk, but I'm going to start reading questions in between, because otherwise I'm not sure why I'm here. So, and because I have so many. So feel free to address these in your thoughts or ignore them. Does Jewish identity have different meanings depending on your temple affiliation or non-affiliation? It is interesting. Okay. And one more. Is our Jewish connectedness, gentleman over there wanted to, you, okay. Is our Jewish connectedness something that defines us as other and becomes a source of anti-Semitism? So is our particularistic nature something that gets in the way of being more universalistic? And does that bring back ramifications? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm Carol, and my last name was Israel. So I always knew I was Jewish. Everybody always knew that I was Jewish, and I wasn't so sure that felt good with me when I was a little kid. But I loved the Jewish holidays. I loved the family part of it and all of that. My parents were very active in a conservative Orthodox shul, and I never went in. I was never there except for a holiday like Purim or something like that. As I got older and I started to experience other types of Judaism other than the conservative Orthodox, I started to fall in love with being in temple and the prayers and the atmosphere, and it just goes right to my heart when I'm sitting there. And that's only increased through the years and years.
Thank you.
Rabbi, I'm getting nervous.
Thank you.
Hi, Brad Boxman, Rabbi at Congregation Kol Tikva in Parkland. I'm glad to have three of us that schlepped down here from Parkland to be here. I just want to say, first of all, David, and to all of IJKL, just Kim, all of you connected, done such an amazing job. We had, how many, Gail, would you say? 40? Over 40 from our congregation that registered and listened from our congregation. And about 15 of them are people that don't normally come to stuff. So it really reached people that otherwise wouldn't. So kol hakavod, it was really wonderful. And to all the participants, my fellow colleagues, thank you. It was learning for us as well. Yes, there you go. It was very professionally done. I just want to thank you for introducing us to that. I think we're asking the wrong question. I think every one of us here is somehow committed to our Judaism for whatever path got us here. But as we started hearing at the end with your words, don't answer this question, just ask, think about it. How many of your children and grandchildren feel proud of their Judaism and connect to their Judaism as you do? Don't answer, just think. And then we're the ones that are the most committed. So if there is more connectedness, it's because we feel connected on some level. How many people don't have that at all? So what keeps me up at night, truly, is who's going to be sitting here 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? Who really is going to be here? And there's an article just came out, made a lot of waves, the end of the American Jewish Golden Age. There is such a lack of connection for so many of our youth. And if you ask them what their Jewish identity might be, except for exclusive numbers, that maybe found that connection, we're asking the wrong question. How are we going to ensure that those that we love, who are our progeny and our children, are going to feel connected in any way, maybe a different way, but how are they going to feel connected to their Judaism? That's the real question.
Rabbi, I want to push back just a little, not on anything that you said, but on the question, because my what? Oh, you have him. I'm special. And only because I'm disagreeing with you, only because I'm going to agree with you more. The disagreement or the challenge is, how are they going to feel connected? Feeling connected isn't enough for me. I don't think it's enough for anyone. Feeling connected is like when I go on a cruise, and it's a 5-day cruise, and I visit 3 islands, and each island, I feel I'm connected to the island for the 8 hours that I'm on my excursion there, and it's beautiful, and I love it, and I'll come back one day, but then I leave, and as soon as I'm gone, I've completely forgotten about it. Rather than the in my DNA, the in my cells, the I'm Jewish, that maybe the concern is not, maybe the question is not how do we help them feel connected, but 2 parts. How do we help them, how do we ensure that people feel or know or have that DNA? I'm not sure if we all just have it and we're not aware of it, or if, and number 2, and this is on us, how did we ever let it get to this point?
And I don't want to monopolize, but 2 quick answers. One,
Please.
I think it's dangerous territory to talk about DNA. We are a religion that began with someone converting to Judaism, Abraham. We are a religion that has always welcomed those who are from the outside. And I think that's part of the solution, is making sure that we are truly a universal religion that speaks to people who are spiritual seekers of all kind. And it gets a little dangerous when we exclusively. I know what we mean. I know we feel it in our guts.
DNA
I know
in
we
a
don't mean it in a racist way. I know we don't mean that.
No,
but it's got to be careful.
DNA, I think, as we were using it, is not scientific DNA. It's,
And the question about how we got here, that we could be here forever to talk about that question, so I won't take the
Thank
time.
you for bringing that question, though. Beautiful, just beautiful. I told you your questions are very
I appreciate that question, too, and I kind of want to respond to it. I'm Rabbi Andrew Jacobs. I'm the rabbi at Ramat Shalom, Beth Israel, and Plantation. I shouldn't be here tonight at all. It's a fluke that I'm here. I come from 2 secular Jewish parents. My dad said something to me when I was 13 about wanting to have a bar mitzvah. And I asked, what did I have to do? And he said, you got to get up early on Sunday morning and learn this foreign language. I said, no, thank you. And when I was 16 or 17, after my wonderful grandfather started to teach me about Judaism, I said, okay, I'll do it. And I went to the local synagogue in town, and the rabbi looked at me and he said, well, you have to start in the kindergarten class. I walked out of his synagogue. I walked out. Turns out he was one of my teachers in rabbinical school. We had a long talk. I came to Judaism with some inspiration from my grandfather, and then I went to learn on my own. For me, being a Jew, and I learned this from my grandfather, is to be a storyteller. Our job, literally, is to, read Torah and keep it alive, but it's to talk about who and what we are. It's not to preach. It's not to tell people what to do. And I wound up becoming a rabbi. And I remember when I was a theater major in college with a Jewish studies minor. That's right. And my professor in Judaism, who I just spent time with in Israel, said to me, you have to become a rabbi. And I looked at her and I laughed. It's funny, that was one of the most pivotal moments of my life. She doesn't remember it at all. And she said to me, why are you laughing? I said, I've been doing this Jewish thing for like 4 years in college. She said, you think you're that different than most Jews out there? And she was right. And so I really see my job as to just share and talk about it. And I'm very proud to say I've got 2 college-age kids who are doing their own Judaism right now. Is it the Judaism, would I love my kid to do a lot more of this and a little bit less of that? Sure, but he's finding his way and she's finding her way. And my son, who's a very proud Jew, but won't set foot in the ritual life, just called me last night. He said, Dad, can you do me a favor? Will you send me a recording of Parshat such and such? I'm reading Torah. And I just said, sure. So I think we also have to remember that you brought up Abraham. Abraham was told by God to pick up and go, and without question, he went. And we're a people who have been wandering in the desert. I do have my moments where I wring my hands and I worry. But we are a people who wandered in the desert and we don't know what is ahead of us, but somehow, some way, I made it here. My kids reading Torah. A lot of you managed to make it here. We got to keep talking about it and sharing the story, and in some ways keeping the doors open. There will be Judaism in 50 years, 100 years. Is it going to be exactly what we want it to be? I hope not, because we've evolved. Look at the temple period. I wouldn't want to be living during that. We're going to be okay, but we have to somehow keep telling the story so it can be passed on.
Hi, my name is Zena. My name is Zena. I wanted to thank the rabbi here for saying what you did, because I'm actually someone that chose to convert to Judaism. And honestly, I was listening and I was starting to feel really left out of the group. And I came to this religion because I was looking for connection and community. And I continue to do that. I come from parents that had no religion, and but yet attended several religious Catholic. I went to Catholic school. We were Jehovah's Witnesses for a while. It's like, so I've been on a path to seek, and this is where I've chosen to try to make that connection. And because I didn't know enough, I couldn't do it with my own children. Although we did bar mitzvah our son, because my father-in-law, I promised him, I made that vow to him that I would do that. And my son, although he hasn't gone back to temple, he still considers himself. He has that connection. I think it's more of a connection for him. But so I really do appreciate both of you saying that, because I want to be here. Thank you.
I got first Rabbi Amy, and then I'll come back.
So I'm really glad that the conversation has morphed in the direction that it has morphed into, because I've been thinking a lot about the idea of identity as a construction, and how is identity constructed? What needs to be put in place in order for identity to be created? And it reminded me of my garden, where I didn't plant any tomato plants this year or any Lagos spinach. And all of the sudden, the soil had been prepped. And I kept watering it, and the sun kept shining. And what do you know? A tomato plant burst forth from the soil. And now I have some spinach over here on the other side that I thought it was over. I removed the plant, it was gone. And so I think when we're talking and thinking about Jewish identity, it's about what are the places that we continue to tend the soil? What are the experiences? What are the teachings? What are the learnings? And especially when it comes to our children, I have a 23 and a 21-year-old. And also, no one has mentioned quite yet, October 7th. That has completely upended and changed my own kids' feeling about what it means to be Jewish, how they speak out more publicly, what they put on their social media pages, how many friends they've lost, how they know who they are. And I hope is related to all of the input that they have gotten over the years in terms of creating and constructing an identity. And so when we think about this moving forward, organizations like IJKL are amazing because of the opportunities, multifaceted opportunities, Shabbayit, and learning opportunities and social opportunities. And I feel like the more we put into the human being system, we are layering different layers of identity.
You know, we didn't talk about really in any depth in the sessions was the role of the synagogue in the future of Judaism. Because the way you just described IJKL, my first thought was, oh yeah, and every synagogue. Shabbat services, educational opportunities, social gatherings. I mean, that's what every synagogue does. And yet, there are some synagogues that are certainly doing well, but I think we have seen a certain decline, certainly in affiliation with synagogues. It's not going up. So I just want to throw that out there also, that what are the ingredients to helping our children and us? In talking about the future, I don't want to forget about us and our children feel that connection, or feel it in ourselves, or however we want, or however we want to say that. We're gonna, there are other hands. I want to make sure that Rabbi Goldenholtz, I want to hear your voice at some point, please. And Jackie, I want to hear your voice, and the teachers who are here, but let's keep going.
Judy McCam, and I'll respond quickly with regard to the future of the synagogue, and also, the future of the synagogue. And I'm a former temple administrator, and when I was planning, I left while I still like Judaism. But one of the questions when I was preparing to do an FTA, a Fellowship in Temple Administration, was intermarriage and the future of the American synagogue. And I did a lot of research, and I don't think it's so much intermarriage as just what is the future of the synagogue. And what I came down to is, whose Judaism is this that we're trying to preserve, and why? Because each of us identifies differently. And unlike those religions that have dogma and specifically outline what you have to do or believe in order to be a member of their faith, Judaism basically just says you have to believe in God and you have to identify as a Jew and maybe accept Torah.
I'm not sure the believe in God is
Well, you
a
maybe, you
requirement
know,
for a lot
or
of.
one being, not a.
Just have to believe there's no more than one.
Right, no more than one, and the Messiah hasn't come. And so it's more what we're not maybe than what we are. And it's very hard to unify people when everyone in the room has a different relationship or identity with the faith, or, you know, is it just gastronomical? Is it cultural? Is it spiritual? Is it the people, you know, and I think that's a lot of the issue. I mean, I have two daughters, and they were both raised going to Jewish camp, going to religious school, bat mitzvah, confirmation, and one has turned her back totally, and the other one married Schwartz and the kids in the Bethel preschool.
About 20 years ago, I started having an argument with my dearest friend, Rabbi Menachem Creditor, who, he's a good conservative Jew. We were both rabbis in conservative synagogues right next to each other. He was the good conservative Jew. I was the not so good, mostly because I'm not a conservative Jew. But he and I had this argument, and we still do. He insists that when the conservative movement said out loud, you can drive to Shul on Shabbat. What?
Turn off your radio.
Yeah, but, right. You can drive and Rabbi Creditor is convinced, I think, that is being Shomer Shabbos. That it is Shomer Shabbos, it is observant of Shabbat to drive to synagogue. And I said, no, it's not. No, it's not. I drive to synagogue. I'm fine with the driving part. I'm not okay with saying that it's Shomer Shabbat. And the reason I felt and feel so strongly about that is because of something that you just said, is that I also feel that we are a very, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but bifurcated, diverse, quadrifurcated community. And you know, interestingly, Mordechai Kaplan, who defined Judaism as the evolving religious civilization of the Jewish people, never defined what he meant by Jewish people, what peoplehood is. What is the glue? If you think about mint chocolate chip ice cream, we're all chips. What's the green stuff that holds us all together? No one knows. We need green stuff. And for me, part of that green stuff that's going to hold all these diverse chips together is language and how we define terms. And so for me, I would much rather say I am proudly not Shomer Shabbos, because Shomer Shabbat means X, Y, and Z.
David, there's a Reform rabbi that suggested the term Zachor Shabbat.
No, there's a guy who used to be a conservative rabbi who's now an under constructionist rabbi who suggested that we use the term Zocher Shabbos. Me.
No, it wasn't, well, okay, the text that I read, but I think it's beautiful.
Just kidding.
It's a beautiful
Of course, when I turn the lights on and off, I use my elbow.
But there are people that are turning the lights on and are driving cars and are going to the mall and et cetera, and they still are very aware that it is Shabbat, that it's still important and it is different.
So when you get in the car, you only listen to Jewish music. When you turn off the light, you use your elbow, you do it a little shinui, you do it a little different so that you're remembering that it's Shabbat. Absolutely, yeah. But the point I was trying to make, and I apologize, that was long-winded, is I wonder if understanding what that glue is, that is going to keep us together, if that's fundamental toward this challenge that the rabbi put toward us about the future.
Mark Twain wrote an essay in 1897. What is the secret of the Jewish immortality? Some of you may be familiar with that. It's an amazing essay that he writes, and he discusses how through history and goes through that these people with their hands tied behind their backs, they continue to survive. They outlived the Greeks, they outlived the Romans, they outlived the Egyptians. It goes into a whole thing. And at the end, he says, what is the secret to their immortality? secret? What kept them alive for 3,300 years, to the point of 1897? And I say that specifically 1897, because when he wrote that essay, it's pre-Holocaust. It's pre-Holocaust. And in a post-Holocaust world, where we are now at 16 million, the number that we were before the Holocaust, 1939, and we look at that and say, so what is the secret to the Jewish immortality? There is an immortality, and I think, Andrew, what you said also before, that in the future, we're still going to be around. We're still going to be around, and there's no question about that. But the key is, what is the green? I love that enough. What is the green that keeps the chips together? And important, you said language. To me, language would be Hebrew, that everyone should learn Hebrew, that kind of concept. Yiddish is already far gone, but Hebrew. But the point here is, one of the things that I do with my grandchildren, on the phone, what do you call it, FaceTime, once a week for 35 minutes, we study Torah. And my grandkids, this is the family that's at Colomé. They're not very religious. They're members of the temple. Those grandkids, the other grandkids went to a day school. So I'm not, they're learning stuff. But these kids, the two of them, the older one and the younger one, they get on that phone at the designated time that we have, and they call, and Zadie, you ready for me? And we study. I have the Torah by me. I have the Chumash. They have the Chumash, and we read sections, and we go through it, and we talk about what it means, and the concept. And they're busy with so many other things, so many secular things. He's a lacrosse player, and she's a cheerleader. But a half an hour every week, they come on and they study Torah. That's the kind of connection that, find a way to find those kids and begin to teach them. Because the secret to our immortality, I believe, is the Torah. That's the secret to our immortality. Because it's still there. The document is still there, and it hasn't changed. How we interpret it is not relevant. It hasn't changed.
It is so important that all of you understand that what he's doing, he's not doing that because he's Rabbi Doctor. He's doing that because he's Saba. He's grandpa, which means every single person, there's the answer. That's how we do it. That's how we do it. By every single person in this room, me included, setting up a time with our kids, our grandkids, our neighbors' kids, our whoever, and learning Torah together.
And just if you're curious, Sandra and I are now munching because the fast is over. I'm sure you all knew today was a fast day. So and thank you for bringing me a cookie. My dinner's waiting for me at home. But today was a fast day. And those Jews who do the 2-day-a-year Jewish route, you picked the wrong 2 days.
Yes, you did.
It's the wrong 2 days. Purim, which is going to be Saturday night, is one day, and Simchas Torah is the other day. Those are the 2 days that you should bring kids to, this is what Judaism is about.
All right, we're very late, and we have a lot of voices to get to. I'm coming over here only because she's got the mic, and that's where I'm being told we have to go.
I hope I remember what I was going to say.
Sorry.
I think it's important. When I grew up in a Jewish home, and my parents were actually founding members of our Reform synagogue. However, my father didn't believe in bat mitzvah for girls, so I never had the experience that I wish I had very much today. But as I got older, I ended up having an adult bat mitzvah. However, when I was in school for my second profession, which I happen to have been a marriage and family therapist, I had a priest, a rabbi, and a minister.
Walk into a bar.
In a class, and I began to realize, pardon me?
Sounds like the beginning of a joke.
No, it wasn't. I was at St. Thomas University. I was really in the minority as a woman, as a Jew, and as and my age as well, because this was my second go around. And I realized how different all of us thought, but yet there was a lot of common information that we can embrace with each other. Then as I graduated, I realized I had gone to school, I was confirmed, and but I really didn't even know anything. And one of the first classes, it started with Sandra. I took her first class and the Pillars of Judaism, and all of a sudden my eyes opened up. It's like I had to know so much more. Then I had one of my first classes was with Dr. Leon, and I said, I'm really scared to do this class because I don't know anything. And his answer, and I will never forget it, was, that's why you're here, and you'll know it when you teach it to somebody else. And I think when I think back, there are a lot of people my age, younger parents, but they really don't know about the religion. And how can we encourage more people to get involved in some of these classes? How can they begin to understand that there's so much out there that they can learn? And that's what I keep thinking about. And also going back to those kids that do go to religious school, do they just leave it and then they don't follow through with anything else afterwards? Or can we use stories? Can we use different ways of teaching these kids? Because every kid doesn't learn the same. So that's what I just wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I have Howard.
Hi, I'm Howard. Hi, I'm Howard. I think that finding a hever is the most important part of retaining a Jewish identity. And it doesn't matter if it's reform or renewal or Orthodox or whatever. The groups that attract you and that hold you are so important. And if it's not a temple or a synagogue or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's touching your soul in a Jewish manner. So, Jack, I'm from Brooklyn. Don't tell me about the Jews in Brooklyn. You know, I had that when I went to the Bronx. So in Brooklyn, during the baby boomer time, I had my bar mitzvah. Now, my parents, my mother especially, wanted nothing more than to assimilate. Assimilation, you think we're assimilating today? The 50s, that was a good amount of assimilation. So my grandfather of blessed memory.
Keep going. I just had a brilliant idea, sorry. Keep talking, go ahead.
I can't, I'm concentrating on these. So my grandfather lived with us. And before he lived with us, oh, look at this. Oh, you got the whole thing going. Yeah. So he lived with us. Before he lived with us, my mother, as I said, was assimilating. I was Jewish. And I knew I was Jewish because everyone around me was Jewish. The Seder was a Jewish Seder, which he conducted. And it was not my Judaism. And it was not his Judaism, because my Judaism was of the 50s. So you walked into temple and they said, what's that on your head? Take it off. Okay? That's what Reform Judaism was in those days. Can I have the phone? So, so that's what it was in the 50s. It was assimilation. I remember my bar mitzvah portion. There were probably about 6 guys on the bima with me, and we didn't call it a bima probably. I was so dumb. And we split this small portion, and my portion was Baruch. The guy next to me said Atah, and I was bar mitzvah. So my grandfather, a blessed memory, sees my mother after, and she says, "Paul, what did you think?" And he crosses himself in temple. I'm the oldest of 4 boys. The next 3 went to Etz Chaim, Orthodox. I'm the Jew today. I'm more observant, care more than any of my 3 brothers. And they're beautiful people, and they're all Jewish, and they all have families. And I'm Jewish because it touched me, because I found a family that I felt comfortable with my Judaism in. And going back to my grandfather, who was, one of my chores was every day I had to go to the candy store and pick up a copy of the Fovitz. You know what the Fovitz was? It was the forward. It's called the forward. But what it really was, it was really a union paper. It was a socialist. And that's what his Judaism was. He was a socialist. Jews were socialists. In the 20s and 30s, you didn't have these temples. This is a new invention after the 50s. And we could go into why. But when we say what our children are going to do and be, believe me, we've morphed hugely. I have a grandson whose father is not Jewish. And when my daughter came to me and said, "Is it okay?" I said, "Do you love him?" All this stuff. I said, there are a lot of Jewish schmucks who marry and divorce and do this, that, the other. If it's a good marriage, and if you raise him Jewish, I'm okay with it. And you know what? He's going to be bar mitzvah. He goes to Hebrew school. One of the best parts of the COVID thing was it gave me every Sunday an hour with him talking about Torah stories, just him and me. Okay? He's Jewish. I don't know where that Judaism is going to take him, but none of you know where your children and grandchildren's Judaism will take them. So find a chaver.
What?
We have a couple people who've had their hands up forever.
Okay.
Can you get those 2 in? And then I called out Rabbi Goldenholtz before, and I'm not letting him off the hook. Is that, can I pick on you after they?
We have Golden Called, Jackie Goldstein and Denise. They're part of the leaders. We want to hear your voice. Yeah.
My name is Bonnie, and I'm going to try to do like we do at 12-step meetings and keep it to less than 3 minutes. So if somebody will time me, please. First of all, for converts, my best friend, longest friend from Southern California, who's 15 years older than me, who I met at a 12-step meeting, converted to Judaism at the age of 65. Last Friday night, Central Synagogue had on their bima they converted. We're celebrating the conversion of 103 new Jews. Their largest class ever. My daughter, the rabbi, does not have any children. She does not have a congregation. She works in a private school, and it's by being the rabbi teacher that they know is there, after having done her congregational stuff and having worked at a Jewish school. You know, she is a Jew, and she gives what she has. And that's growing Jews. I don't have grandchildren, and I will never have grandchildren. But I take such pleasure, and it is just so precious to me what my daughter is giving to others who are not able to get it from their families. And she's told me, even when she was at the Jewish schools, about the terrible things that were happening, you know, especially as a rabbi in a school. She had all the counseling stuff, and, you know, because not all Jews are good Jews. Not all Jewish parents are good Jews. I knew that I was a Jew, and no matter what I did in my family of origin, that was in Rego Park, New York, that was a 95% Jewish neighborhood. We did not belong to a synagogue, and we did not do anything Jewish, and anything I learned about Judaism, I had to fight for. My daughter was not at her baby naming, because that's how little I knew about Judaism. I got bat mitzvahed the year she graduated from her undergraduates. That's, you know, there are all kinds of us, and we do what we have to do that we feel inside us to keep it. And I think that's 3 to 5 minutes. I hope that.
Joan, Rabbi Goldholz, and then we've got to eat.
Maybe if you haven't spoken, you should go first.
No, I already picked the two people. We're good.
I'm still Joan. And sharing from the other perspective, based on my family's experience, my personal family's experience, as to what not to do in order to grow Judaism. My kids went to Jewish preschool. My kids went through Solomon Schechter until they wanted no part of high school. There was a Jewish high school. They wanted no part of it. We belonged to a chevra that ran all of our own services until the women who were raising children went back to work, because we carried most of the responsibility for Shabbos. My boys did 100% of the service on their own at their bar mitzvah. We had no rabbi. They did it from beginning to end. My daughter, unfortunately, the chevra was no longer in existence. She did it in a synagogue. It was more of the typical, you know, whatever they gave her to do, she did. So we did in my opinion, we did everything right. Everyone, and I continued to go to services, and we had Friday night Shabbat dinners, but they could go out after. Saturday, if they came with me, great. If they didn't, I didn't force it. None of my kids married a Jew, not one. None of my grandchildren are being bar or bat mitzvah. Now, I will also tell you that we have an unusual family. Our boys are biological. They look like us. Our daughter is adopted. She's dark-skinned and born in India. And she loved her Judaism. This is her experience here in Florida. We go to services at for Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, that was not in a synagogue. It was one of these things from somebody who ran it just for the holidays. She very stupidly goes to bring her brother, who is in there already, a bagel and coffee in a bag on Yom Kippur. The father of the woman who is running the service goes and gets the guard and says, it was around 9/11, do not let this person in because she's gonna blow things up. Call the cops. That is what happened. What do you think that did to my daughter's Judaism? You want to know what not to do? My brother-in-law, who was raised Catholic and hated everything about Catholicism, married my sister, who knows nothing about being Jewish, but was involved in Jewish activities and the Jewish synagogue in St. Paul. The Reform synagogue. He was told that he could not partake in the synagogue. What do you think that this does? If we as Jews are going to act like Republicans and Democrats and turn people away, that is what not to do to grow our Judaism. On the other side of this, when I was into my yoga and I had a guru, and I went to my guru in public and said, you know, I can't do some of these traditions. They go against how I was raised as a Jew. I can't bow before you. I can't do that comfortably. He said to me, so don't. He said, it's not important. I think what holds Judaism together is that we live our values. We love each other, we're kind to each other, and we accept everybody for who they are. That's where I think the strength of Judaism's future is. Thank you for letting me share.
By the way, just one quick by the way, our older son and our daughter both spent summers in Israel.
And our middle son didn't want to. Oh, and I didn't mention that my daughter, my sister's children are African American, both adopted. And at 2 years old, my nephew was on an elevator and somebody said to him, is Santa Claus coming to your house? This is all he knew about being a Jew. Santa Claus doesn't come to my house because I'm Jewish. Every one of my grandkids, every one of my kids celebrates Christmas. Am I happy about it? No. I think I did everything right. The rest of it is out of my hands. And what they're going to do with or without their Judaism is out of my hands. And let them be married to mensches, because that's what's important in this world.
Let's pass it over here so we can
Thank you,
wrap up.
Joan.
Rabbi.
I have Rabbi Goldenherz, Jackie, and Denise, and then we're done.
Thank you. So it's 8:25, and so I need about 45 minutes to an hour. No, we're actually, we're 25 minutes past what we were supposed to be, or?
Yeah, but we started 20 minutes late.
Oh, okay.
So we're right on time.
Jewish time. So I have 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, I want to share you a couple of things. One is that I found out that I have a nodar. In other words, I went on a trip to Alaska, and this was on a cruise boat, and you stop at all these beautiful little places. And one of the places, I don't remember the name of the place, it could have been Seward, I don't know. It was a little shtetl that was inhabited predominantly by Tlinkits. These are natives from a long time ago who have been stripped of everything in their lives. They were horrendously treated. Anyways, there's a place where you get off the boat and you get to see the Tlingit stuff, and you get to do, the touristy thing. I said, I'm not going there. I need to see where these guys really live, and I need to talk to them, not to the touristy stuff. So I managed to find in the back areas over there where the workers were getting on a bus, and I said, where are you guys going? So, oh, we're going home. Where? We go to the village. So I said, can I go to the village? They don't like us. They're afraid of us, right? We're like weird. But somehow I managed to sort of convince them I'm not trying to do anything bad, whatever. So the bus driver asks me for a whole dollar, and I joined the workers going back to the village. I get to the village, and of course I stand out like a sore thumb, and nobody trusts me. But there's a place that caught my eye. There's a guy who's sculpting a totem. Now, that would be the equivalent of a guy who's writing a Torah, or maybe a scholar, or somebody who's, because he's writing the history of the people. And he's a holy guy. He's doing something very special. I like to do sculpting, I like to do art, and so I was very, very fascinated. I go up to him. I said, listen, do you mind if I watch you and look at how you do things? Because I start sharing with some of the, all right, so I'm not trying to get anything from him. I'm not trying to pull any shtick with him. This is a guy who is obviously a guy that has a long history, and he's trying to relate that history with his totem for his people. I'm looking at him, watching him, asking questions about the tools here and tools there, and all of a sudden, I see this sign, And I'm trying to figure out, what the heck is that? And so he says, oh, you're looking at the holy words, right? I said, yeah, what is that? He says, those are words for peace. I said, peace? Oh, wait a second. That's shalom, but it's upside down. So, I mean, I'm looking at Linkit language or whatever. He says, you know what that is? I said, yeah, I kind of like know the language. He says, oh, then you must be related to my wife. I said, your wife? Yeah, she's an Israeli. Now here we are in the middle of nowhere, a total no place. And this guy is some holy guy for the Tlingit tribe. And he's married to an Israeli woman, a Jewish Israeli woman. And she wrote the word shalom, and he doesn't even know how to hang it properly up there, but it's a holy sign for him. I'm trying to figure out, what is this? Exactly what am I witnessing here, and why didn't I catch something before? So obviously I have no Jewish radar, and whatever that Jewish radar would have probably missed the point altogether, because here's a woman who's not interested in living a Jewish life. She is interested in running away as far as she can to a place that is so remote that nobody will identify her, and for some fluke, her husband hangs up for the little thing that some weird rabbi from somewhere shows up and, you know, unwanted reminds him that, or her, that she's Jewish. So I started thinking a little bit about that. We are a people everywhere. We're not located in one place. Now, nowadays, there's more of us in Israel than in any other place. But over the 4,000 years of this civilization, this experience, or whatever, this idea, a bunch of ideas, which is what we are. You can eradicate the Jews out of the equation, the actual humans, but the ideas will always be around. You cannot destroy ideas. You can destroy the people. The ideas remain. It's not DNA. It's not cellular. It's ideas that somehow pervade in different times, in different ways, and they manifest themselves. It's not just intellectual stuff. There is a lot of intellectual, brilliant stuff. It's not just feelings. There's a whole lot of feelings. It's not just spirituality. There's a whole lot of spirituality. It's not just observances. There's a whole lot of observances. It's not just whatever it is, you know, chavruta or friendship or community. It's not this or that. Because anything you try to define it, it's only a small piece of it. It's a phenomena. It's something kind of unique, but it's really not so unique. Because in every culture, in every group, there's something that binds people together, and people always struggle to, you know, if you're a Greek, you want your kids to be Greeks. If you're an Italian, you want them to speak Italian and marry Italian, all this mishigas. But there's something much different about this whole phenomena, because we've been around for 4,000 years with so many different expressions of who or what we are. So we're not something that's easily defined. And yes, I know, I'm very familiar with all the definitions, and yeah, it's really nice to package it nicely, but it's not so easy. Because one of the things that that somebody mentioned, that Abraham was not born an Israelite or a Hebrew or a Jew. Of course not. And Ruth was not born an Israelite or a Jew, or, you know, Ruth was a Moabite. And she becomes the great-grandmother of David, who's kind of like a big deal for us, right? So we're a bunch of people that come from all kinds of places. When I met the Kuchini Jews from India, they thought I'm looking weird because I don't look Jewish. When I met the people that came from Ethiopia, when they first arrived, you know, here they come with this airplane, like they're walking, what the hell? And I'm going towards them. They thought I was the ugliest thing they ever saw. I'm white, I'm weird, I look strange, and I'm running towards them. I must be interested in hurting them, you know. I don't look Jewish to them. When I meet the Chinese Jews or whatever Jews or the people from Morocco certainly don't have the same kind of ideas of the Polish Jews. So what the heck ties us together, and what kind of observances or non-observances? So I started thinking more and more about it, and then I ran into something that really is bizarre. You know, if you read from the text in the Torah itself, it's telling us that there's a census, and there's like 600,000 heads of household or something, 3,330 years ago. Okay, so we don't know. I mean, maybe they were exaggerating. I don't know. Maybe the Torah is all fantasy. But let's just assume for a second that maybe there really is 600,000 plus heads of household that are over there in the desert, just got out of Egypt. Now, by any normal progression, and by any normal kind of anything you want, that's like a couple of million people, easily. A couple of million people, 3,330 years of continuation. We have to be at least, what, 4 billion people by now? Because 2,000 years ago, in the great empire of China, there were 12 million people. That was the total population, 2,000 years ago. Today it's only like 1.5 billion, give or take a few hundred million. 2,000 years ago, our folks, with whatever conglomerate from Egypt and from wherever the hell we came from, there were 10 million Jews that were left. Because over the 2,000 years, a whole lot did not stick around as Jews, or Israelites, or Hebrews, or whatever you call them. In 2,000 years, there was a dissipation and absorption into every culture in the world. So only a very small group was left. Only 10 million Jews were present 2,000 years ago. And in 2,000 years, the 12 million Chinese became 1.5 billion. The 10 million Jews today were about 15, 16 million. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. The Holocaust happened, and 6 million of our people were murdered horribly. But where's the rest of the group? Because, by the way, during the Holocaust, I'm not belittling the murder of any human being, but during the Holocaust, there were many tens of millions of Chinese that were murdered also. But there's 1.5 billion Chinese. So we should be the few billion today. What happened? What happened is we're everywhere. And we don't even know that we have any roots in Judaism. We don't. And the ones that do have some link or tie to some Judaism or another, sometimes those links are fired up. Sometimes that little fire that comes from great whatever connection to whatever wakes up, and a nice Catholic girl comes into a synagogue and says, I want to know what this Judaism stuff is. And a nice Jewish girl says, I don't want to know anything about this stuff. And another nice Catholic girl that's born and raised in Mexico by good Catholics for centuries walks into my office. And she says, Rabbi, answer my question. What does it mean when your family tells you you have to go into the closet and close the door and stand there quietly, and then go out of the closet and never tell the priest? You must tell the priest everything except that. What does that mean? I go, what do you do in the closet? He says, nothing. Are you supposed to say something? Are you supposed to do something? No. So, you're a rabbi, you're supposed to know this stuff. I said, I never heard of such a thing. He says, you didn't? I said, no, I never heard of such a thing. So what is that? So this nice Jewish Catholic, or not Jewish, but Catholic girl that grows up with hundreds of years of good Catholic folks in Mexico. I said, do you have any history? Do you have any idea of where you come from and where you're? Mexico. Any before that? Well, probably hundreds of years ago, we must have had some relatives that must have been from Spain. I said, really? How do you know that? He says, well, I think because we have a Bible that has a whole lineage of our family. I said, really? Wow, cool. So can I see it? No, it's sacred. I can't take it out of the house, whatever. Can you give me pictures of it? Yes, I'm going to try to keep it short, really, really short. Only 40 minutes left. So I asked her to bring it. She brought it. We went through the listing. It's all Mexican-sounding, Hispanic names until I ran across a name that looked familiar to me a few hundred years ago. I said, I think I understand what your parents were telling you to do. Because you come from what's known as Moranos, Jewish pigs. Anybody that converted to Catholicism became a pig because you can't trust Jews. So because you can't trust them, what the priest would do is it would go to the family and ask the little children, did your parents ever tell you to do something? And if they would say, yeah, I'm supposed to light candles, or I'm supposed to do this or that. So anything that they can get their hands on, that's a good excuse to drive the Jews into Inquisition and torture and death. So the Jews became very nervous about it, because if they were, exposed to those kinds of dangers, they didn't tell the kids hardly anything. But if they kept the idea of at least go into the closet and say something or think something, that wasn't something that they could be, specifically taken to the Inquisition for. So over the years, all that was forgotten except for going into the closet. Who are we? We're a bunch of eclectic people from all over the place. We're a bunch of people that have all sorts of experiences collectively. And to define us, I defy anybody to define all of us, or even a portion of us, to be accurate about it, because we've evolved and continue to change and continue to have experiences. So I honestly think that ideas represent us, experiences represent us, and a whole lot of other stuff. So I'm sorry I took up so long, but I just wanted to share some of those thoughts and ideas and feelings or whatever. And so let me pass it on to whoever else.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabbi. 2 minutes each, sorry.
I'm going to do less than probably 2 minutes.
Awesome.
But anyway, once in a while I start to think that I could have been born anything. I could have been, and how lucky I am that I was born a Jew. Now, that doesn't mean that I think Judaism, or being a Jew, is perfect. It's not. There's good, there's bad, there's all kinds of things involved. But it's so rich. Being a Jew is such rich blessings. I can question, I can learn. There's so much to learn. There's so much history. There's so much connections. There's so many wonderful social opportunities. There's connections with other Jews. There's connections to be able to tell other people about what Jews, who Jews are and what we're about. There's connections I feel to the past. I feel connections to the future. I just feel very connected. And so my Judaism keeps me very, very connected. That's important. And I also think that it's kind of ironic, because I remember being, when I was a small kid, sitting at our table and my father bringing up the question of, like, how are Jews going to last? Because it's always, I think that question is always there. And we used to laugh about it, because he said, my dad used to always talk about it. I said, I think Abraham and Isaac and Jacob used to sit around and go, how's this going to last? Look at what's happening to us. It's gonna, like, we're always afraid. I think that yeah, we need to do everything we can, but I also think that there's just something that's going to last. And it doesn't make any, I was born a Jew, but I choose to be a Jew every day. So I'm Jewish by choice, I'm Jewish by birth. And I think that one of the last 2 living beings in the world if the world were to come to an end, would be a Jew. So I don't think we really have in the long run anything to worry about. And just keep doing whatever you can do. Make those connections and just keep doing whatever you do.
I will be very quick as well. Both of my parents actually were orphaned. They were born during the Depression and actually did not know who their parents were. And when I was 15, my mother had discovered that her father was actually Jewish. And I had grown up without any religion, none. There was no religion practiced. And I found it fascinating, but it kind of went there. 12 years later, when I was 27, I was in Germany. I was there when the wall came down. I ended up taking a teaching position in Berlin. And I ended coincidentally living in a traditional Jewish area where you could walk by what was the day school and the monuments were still up, and I was actually living in a building that was Jewish. The entire area that I was living in was Jewish, and I felt just this incredible connection to all of it, and shared that also with my mother, who was still living. And we kind of went on this journey somewhat together. I do think you might have, as they used to say, a pentala yid somewhere, but not necessarily. But I do think it comes from somewhere, somehow, even if it's just a fascination or just a deep desire to learn more about Judaism. So that's really kind of how I landed here. And most of my work is essentially with hoping that we can be more unified, and I've had some of the experiences that your grandchildren have had, and I can probably write a book on it. It hasn't really deterred me. My son has been raised Jewish as well. He's very proud. It helps that Drake is Jewish. If you have grandkids, you know, a pop star is Jewish and they also happen to be black or whatever, at some point being Jewish was cool. So it's just something that you foster, and my intention for my grandkids is just to make my house the house that they want to be in. So
Amen.
That's it.
Amen. Really grateful that everyone took a few moments to share. We're incredibly late, which is very Jewish. So I think our plan is, the plan was to schmooze and eat. Now the plan is to shove as much food in your mouth as you possibly can in the next 5 minutes, so that we can move on to a little graduation ceremony.
Perfect.
Please, if you can, don't leave. We really want to give you the gift of a diploma to honor what you've done, and we want to honor our teachers as well. Yes?
Yeah, and then they eat, right? Like all the holidays.
And let's say a bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam habar shehakol. Shehakol nihiyah bidvaro.
Amen.
B'tei avon.
This year, everybody's going to be talking about Hamas instead of Hamas.
Should I keep recording?
I'm sorry? That's up to you.
Well, they're not even here. I must just end this one. Right?
All right.
Thank you all. I
Yalla.
do need to head. Thank you. Layla, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And I will be